Hello everyone, welcome to another FSElite First Look. Today we're going to fly the Carenado 390 Premier 1A for Prepared and FSX. Now, this is an aircraft that's modeled after the Beechcraft Premier, and it first took flight in December of 1998, and it was designed to compete with the Cessna CJ2. And what we're going to do today is just take a look at the systems and take it on a flight from Raleigh, North Carolina to Miami. Now, the 390 is equipped with the Proline 21 system, and if you're familiar with that on other Carenado products, not much has really changed at all. It's pretty much the same system with the same quirks here and there, but it does do its thing just like the other ones, so you won't be disappointed there unless you were expecting updates to it. So right now we're just programming in the route. Works the same way. You got your SIDs, stars, and all that stuff. It doesn't add the altitudes for you. It adds some. I think it defaults to 28,000 feet, and then sometimes on the approaches it does get a few of them right for the ILS, but for the most part you have to add them in yourself to get the appropriate ones. As you can see here, these would not be accurate. You would not be flying to 500 feet and such. So to do that, just do a /FL and then put in the altitude. And if you want to keep using the same altitude, you can just click it and paste it in there over and over again. But for now, at the beginning of the flight, we're going to 7,000 feet, and then later we're going to go up to 38,000 feet. And you just type them in like that. Now, the VNAV doesn't really fly those so much, so you know it's good practice to add them in anyway, but you'll see with using it. So we're just going to do a few of the procedures here, putting the pitch trim on normal. And then you can come over here and unlock this and verify that you can move it. Rudder boost and the trim go on. Auxiliary too. Now we'll turn our lights on. Beacon and nav. Up here is where you control all the lighting. Going to have all these on. And then there's the master test, which we'll do later. That's in the center. But the startup on this aircraft is pretty simple. You kind of just go left to right. The flows make a lot of sense that way. And it does have push-to-start engines. So right now we're going to start the right engine. And then to clean them out, they recommend a procedure of starting it up for about 20 seconds, then using the disconnect button. We're not going to do that. We're just going to start the engine right now and go from there. We're just going to wait a few seconds. You don't want to move that up right away. And now the left engine should kick on. Put the generators on. Put the bleed air to normal, and then you can adjust your temperatures as you'd like. Now we're going to do the master test. Put the yoke back and we'll test the flight controls. And we'll set our altitude. The cockpit in this plane is very gorgeous, as you saw in the intro, with the during the day and at night, especially at night. It's a very beautiful cockpit, as is most of Carenado's products. Always are very well done. Right now we're setting the speed. We just set our altitude. There is no auto throttle on this aircraft. The speed is just for pitch. So keep that in mind. You're going to have to work the throttles. Over here you want to set this to FMC and it'll follow your flight plan. There's some other things you can do too. To change these, click it and then it's the knob right below that's highlighted in blue that switches them. Now from what I've done is you have to start with the nav source, otherwise if you start on one of these other ones first, the knob doesn't seem to turn. It'll turn but the option will not change. So that's how you set those up. Then you can do your VREFs, your ref speeds here. To change them, you can click the button and then you can change it to whatever speed you want, and then you push the button in the knob and then it will activate. Now if you have a light about the auxiliary, the roll trim, just turn that off and that light will go away. Now these two will go off when you put on the pitot heat later before you take off. Just like that, but you don't want those on until you take off. I think you only want them running for about 2 minutes, no more than that, while you're on the ground. Otherwise, you can damage them. So with all that done, we're going to taxi over to the runway and take off and see how this plane handles. It taxis very nicely. It doesn't throttle up too fast or anything like that. I like to give it a little power and then cut it back, especially around turns. But as far as the control of the rudder and all of that, it's very smooth. I have no complaints with that whatsoever. Now the frames per second, as you can see, are pretty good when you're taxiing around. A few little stutters here and there, and a lot of that is going to depend on what airport you are at. You will see that later on, the difference in taxiing around Miami. So that is a factor. But otherwise, it's pretty good. Okay, so we're gonna get ready to go here. Armrest goes up and we'll put the ignitions on. The landing lights and the strobe. And with all that, we're ready to go. Make sure you adjust your pitch, have that set up. It's for the autopilot. Also, don't forget to check the trim, and your flaps should be set. Checklist is in the root folder where their aircraft installs. They have that, the procedures, the limitations, emergency procedures, and a manual for the ProLine 21 system. Now typically with these jets, you want to get a good lineup they usually can be kind of loose when you're going down the runway, so you want to make sure you're lined up as straight as you can be, and that way when you throttle out of here, you're not all over the place. So you got to be very easy with the rudder on these. Some aircraft are more sensitive than others. Once you are 400 feet in the air, you can start to mess with the auto flight system if you wish. Now, right now the autopilot is not flying. I'm just messing with the buttons to see what actually happens with when putting the VNav on. It changes the pitch. Just seeing how these things respond, if anything had changed with the system. Now, had I had the VNav on, it should have grabbed the 7,000 feet right there. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. These things with the Proline 21 can be kind of quirky at times with the level change and the VNav. Make sure you put the yaw damper on too, and once you're confident with where you are, I would turn on the autopilot system. So we're going to have the FMC and the FMS and the VNav on now. And we're going to hold around this altitude for now. The ignitions can come off. So we're going to move up to 38,000 feet now. And we're going to pitch up. We're going to control that. And it should stop once we hit 38,000 feet. It's not going to do it for you. You're going to have to adjust that. does take some time to get used to the systems. The Proline 21. Okay, we're about to hit 38,000 feet, and as you can see, we're moving the pitch, but it will do it for us. I was just doing that in case it didn't, just to slow it down a little bit. But it is going to grab 38,000 feet, and this is from the plan. We have the altitude set at 38,000. It's also set as that in the FMS. And there you can stay cruise until you make your descent. Alright, so when you want to make your descent, it should grab it for you. You might have to, I found that you have to hit the VNAV button again when you're at the waypoint with the level change. And then it defaults at about 400 feet per minute on the descent, so you have to change that too. That's not accurate. That's not going to bring you down correctly. So you will have to adjust the pitch yourself. There's no top of descent or any of that. Now, we're getting close to the airport. We've made the whole descent, and we're going to do our approach now. Still pitching for about 400. We have changed it on the way down, but we changed it back to 400 to slow it down. Changing the speed bug, just so we have an accurate marker of where we need to get down to. You should have your VREFs showing up as well for reference. And now we're turning to line up. Runway 12 in Miami. So at this point, I'm going to disengage the autopilot, and I'm going to hand fly it in. Hand flies very nicely. With this type of aircraft, I like to use the trim to bring it down, and it trims very smooth, does what you want it to do, so that's nice. As long as you make light, subtle movements with this aircraft, it will respond in the same way. And we're kind of getting tossed around by some wind right now. Of course, that would happen on my first landing. This is the first full flight I've done with this aircraft, so I'm just gonna have to fight the wind on the way down.
$500. $400. $300. Minimums. Minimums. $100. 50, 40, 30, 30, 20, 10.
And there's an example of a landing in 390. Kind of floated it for a second and misjudged my flare, but in the end it worked out. Airport has plenty of room. Not really using the brakes yet, just kind of coasting down. We wanted to go to the end anyway. There's no auto brake. You're going to have to use the pedals, and you're going to have to try to press them at the same time. Otherwise, the pedal that gets pressed first, well, you'll turn left or right, depending on which one went first. So you have to be careful with that. Take some practice to land these Carenado jets with the braking.
$300. $100. 50, 40, 30, 30, 20, 10.
So we can turn the ignitions off, turn the pitot-static off, and make sure you get the transponder So standby. Flaps up, landing lights off, strobes, and taxi your way to parking. Overall, I very much enjoyed flying this aircraft. Like I said, it's beautiful on the inside, even back in the cabin, every little detail they put into it. The cockpit, the exterior. Flies beautifully, handles nicely. You know, the only, negative is some of the things with the ProLine 21 system haven't been updated and it still operates the same way, but it still will get you to where you need to go. And that's the most important thing. This is definitely going to be an aircraft I'll be using in my free time. I'm going to use it on some different short hops around the world, and I'm looking forward to that. I'll probably fly this alongside with the CJ2. These are now the two jets that I have, and very much, like I said, very much enjoyed this one. Operates very nicely. Most of the buttons all work and do what they should. And the sounds are great, as you also could hear rolling down the runway. It also has a very nice sound, and that's lacking in some aircraft these days, to hear the noises as you're rolling at a high speed down the runway. So for now, we're just going to shut the plane down and call it a day. If you guys want to see more reviews like this, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Head over to FSElite.net for more reviews, great stuff. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Check us out. Well, everyone, hope you enjoyed this review. You guys take care. I'll see you next time.